while I get that set up. Okay. We are going to look at los verbos. Okay. What is a verbo? What is a verb? Action word. See, action word. Now, in Espanol, okay, remember that our verbs are different from English because they do change, okay, according to the subject of the sentence. All right, so just to kind of go over really quickly, okay, what does yo mean? I. You're talking about yourself. You're doing something, okay? What does tú mean? You, but in what context? Informal. Muy bien. So you're talking to a student, a peer, a friend, a family member, etc. Okay? What does usted mean? Formal what? You, muy bien. All right, so the formal you. You're speaking to a stranger. You're speaking to your boss. You're speaking to, you look like a priest today. No. You're speaking to your priest. You're speaking to someone older. You're speaking to whomever. Okay? What does el mean? He. I should say el with an accent mark. Means he. Okay, remember, el with no accent means the. El with an accent means he. Okay? And ella, she. So if I'm talking about he, or if I'm talking about she. Okay? Now, what is nosotros?
That's we.
That is we, muy bien. We, okay? So if Jesse and I are speaking as a unit, okay, we, all right? What is vosotros? Y'all, or you all. Remember, vosotros is the plural of tú. So if this is one person, then this is you all, okay? Now, what is the only country on the planet that uses this? Spain, okay? So, usted, okay? Ustedes also means you all, okay? But ustedes is used in the other 20 Spanish-speaking countries, okay? And then ellos and ellas both mean they, okay? But obviously this one is masculine if you're talking about, boys. This one is feminine if you're talking about girls, all right? Etc. Okay? Now, donde está? All of my black marcadores went over here. Okay, so, in English, you might say something like, I speak Spanish, okay? And then, of course, if I'm talking to, let's say, Seth, because, well, we're not at the informal yet, because it's still English. I might be talking to Seth, and I say, Seth, you speak Spanish, okay? And then, maybe Ira and I are chatting with each other, and one of her friends comes up and says, wow, you guys are talking in Spanish. And Ira says, well, yeah, we speak Spanish. Okay? And stuff. Okay? If you look at the verb speak, it doesn't really change. Okay? In English, for the most part, it stays the same. If someone heard Caden speaking Spanish, and people are like, whoa. And I'm like, well, yeah, he speaks Spanish. Okay, we get a little change there. Okay? But, it still pretty much stays, the same. Okay? We worked with the verb to be in the previous chapter, where in English, you have to say, I am, you are, he is. Okay? In Espanol, all verbs are like that. Okay? All verbs will change depending on the subject of the sentence. Okay? So what, Senor Santos? Well, In Espanol, we have three types of verbs. We have AR verbs, we have ER verbs, and we have IR verbs. Okay? They all work pretty much the same, but because this is kind of a new concept for some people, in this chapter, we're only going to focus on AR verbs. In the next chapter, we will focus on the other two. All right? Now, when it comes to using verbs in Spanish, okay? And so remember, for now, we're only going to focus on AR verbs. The verb hablar means to speak, okay? When you want to use a verb in Spanish, always, 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 you are going to remove the AR, okay? You're going to drop it. And then depending on what your subject is, and I'm going to do this real quick. Depending on what your subject is, you add a particular ending. Yeah. Oh my God, and that's how I memorize them, okay? Now, okay, there is a method to this, because if you're like Jesse and already know them, that's fine, great, you know. If you have another way of doing it, that's fine also. But a lot of teachers, and it doesn't matter what language, okay, well, let me back up. Most Western European languages, so like French, Italian, German, you know, stuff like that, okay? Salud. If your subject is yo, which is the top left corner, the ending is in the top left corner. All right? So if you want to say, I speak Spanish, yo, you drop the AR, and because yo is top left, you just add an O. So yo hablo español. Okay? If, once again, I was talking to Seth, and I say, wow, you know, you speak Spanish. Okay? Because he's my student and he's younger than me, we're going to use the tú form. Okay? So tú, you drop the AR, middle left, tú hablas español. You speak Spanish. Tú hablas español. Okay? Once again, Jesse and I, as a collective, all right, are saying to someone, we speak Spanish. Okay? We is nosotros, which is the top right. So the ending will be the top right. So nosotros hablamos. Muy bien. Nosotros hablamos español. And so on. I'm not going to do all of them. All right? But that's basically how it works. Okay? You pick your subject, or, you know, you have your subject. Okay? You're going to drop the AR. All right? And then, depending on the location, you can match it up like this. Okay? Now, similar to what Jesse did earlier, when I've studied other languages, I have to do top to bottom, left to right. I've known people that do a cross like that, and I don't get how someone can do o, amos, as, ice, I can't. I have to go o, as, amos, ice, an. O, as, amos, ice, an. Okay? Because I know that's yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Okay? And so that's how I do my things. Okay? And I used to do it with Portuguese, I used to do it with French, I used to do it with German. And yes, I've studied a few languages. Okay. Huh? Sí, yes.
How many languages do you know like fluently?
Just English and Spanish. I can fake my way through Portuguese. And then, like, I took 3 years of German, so I can kind of communicate. I can understand it better than I can actually speak. I took 1 year of French, because I had to. The last time I was in France, like 15 years ago, I just asked, "Parlez-vous español? Do y'all speak Spanish?" And they're like, "Sí, hablamos español." I'm like, "Oh." And so I spoke to them in Spanish. So yeah.
You got lucky.
I did. Yes, the French hate people who speak English. So I got lucky there. And then, living here, I've memorized like a couple Bosnian phrases, a couple of Russian phrases too, and stuff like that. Although I was proud of myself. The other day, I recognized somebody speaking Russian, and they're like, "What are they saying?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know what they're saying. I just know it's Russian. I can tell it's Russian, but I know it's not, So yeah, but I don't know what they're actually saying. And so it's just like, okay, so I don't know. You hang around with some people often enough, you pick up their language. Okay. Oh, I can say a few things in Arabic, thanks to like most of the Arabic Muslim students we have here now. And that's only been within the last like 5 years that I've picked up a few phrases. I'm like, oh, merhaba, hello, and stuff like that. So, anyways, all right. So this is how we do verbs in Espanol. Okay. Now, everything I have just babbled on that I've talked about. Okay. If you look on page 34, all right, that is all explained right there, okay? So, if you need to review it. Now, there is a concept known as verb tense, okay? So, for example, in English, we've been using speak. You say, I speak, all right? If you were talking about what you did yesterday, though, what would speak become? Spoke. If you're talking about what will happen tomorrow, will speak. Yeah, in English, the future is what we call compound. You need two verbs to express it. Okay? So yeah, okay? Now, in Spanish, my expertise is Espanol, obviously. There are 21 different verb tenses in Spanish. Don't worry, unless you get a PhD in Spanish, you would never have to know all 21 of them. And about 5 of them are archaic. They're not even used in real Spanish. It's like English, these and thous and thines and forthwiths and fortnights and things like that. Yeah, hitherto, thank you. So a lot of it is archaic, is not really used. But for Español Uno, for this semester, we're going to learn 1.5. I say that because we're really only going to use the present tense. And so that's listed right there. Okay. The thing is, though, and it does explain it, in Spanish, the present tense is a lot more flexible than in English. Okay. So I can say, for example, yo hablo con Seth. I speak with Seth. Okay? That's what's happening right now. If I just add the word mañana, yo hablo con Seth mañana, I just turned it into the future by adding the word tomorrow. You can't really do that in English. You can't say, I speak with Seth tomorrow. I've heard it, but it's grammatically incorrect. In Spanish, it's actually correct. So you can actually express the future without knowing the future tense. Okay? And there's a lot of other things. Okay? We are going to learn a very simple way to express the future. So that's going to be the half tense, because we're still doing the present, but we're just using it to express something different. Okay? But we're only going to do the present tense this semester. If you want to do any of the past tenses, and I use the plural because there's 2 of them in Spanish, whereas in English you only have 1, that is Español dos. And actually in my Español dos class, yesterday, ayer, we just started the past tenses. Okay, so, all right. Now, If you go to page 35, 35, here's the scary part. These are the AR verbs that you need to know. You need to know what they mean, and you need to be able to use them. Now, the good news is that they all function the same way. So if you look at the first one, descansar, which means to rest, and they put it in with a phrase like descansar por una hora, rest for an hour, but just focus on the verb for now, descansar. If I want to say I rest, yo descanso por una hora, I rest for an hour, or I'm going to rest for an hour, okay? If I talk about Caden resting, él descansa por una hora, because the L form, you take off the AR and you add an A, okay? Escuchar música, escuchar means to listen. Yo escucho la música, I'm listening to music, or I listen to music, okay? If I, see Todd with ear pods on, I say, Todd, ¿tú escuchas la música? Do you listen to music? Okay, so drop the AR, the do form, you add AS. Okay, so escuchas. All right. If you skip down to the bottom thing, here they just give you the verbs, without any kind of phrases. Okay, bailar, to dance. Okay. Maybe, Jesse and I are going clubbing, so nosotros bailamos en el club, all right? We dance at the club, okay? Because the nosotros form, okay, you drop the AR, you add amos, okay? Necesitar, to need. I already drank mine, so yo necesito un café. I need some coffee, or I need a coffee. Okay, yo necesito, okay? And I don't know if Ira and Leighton back there were falling asleep and Caden says, like, what's their problem? And I would be like, ellos necesitan un café. They need some coffee, okay? Ellos, okay, the bottom right, drop the AR, you add AN. Ellos necesitan, okay? Now, just a couple of things, okay? If you go back to the top portion, the verb mandar, okay, M-A-N-D-A-R, means to send, okay? And obviously, you can talk about sending, either things by mail. Correo electrónico literally translates to electronic mail. That's what email stands for, just FYI. But nobody actually says electronic. I don't think nobody said it since the 90s. Everybody just says email. Most young people don't say correo electrónico. They will literally just say el email. All right. So if you just want to say, but you have to put the el in front of it. All right. If you just say el email, that's fine. You just use Spanish. Okay. So el email. Okay. Mensajes literally just means messages, but it refers to text messages. Okay. Now, most people your age nowadays do not say mensajes anymore. Okay, that's for the millennials. Not even because my age didn't have them. All right, that's like the millennials. All right, most people your age have taken English and then added an O. So if Caden is texting his friend, yo mando un texto, mi amigo. Okay, I'm texting my friend. All right. Little by little, and it's like the kids that are younger than you guys are starting to change the word text, like in English, into a verb. Textear. It's an AR verb. So yeah, no, that's those. What are they called now? Gen Alpha, like the preteens. They're starting to make it into a verb. Textear. Yeah. You guys aren't, all right? Your age isn't, but the younger ones are like, ooh, yo texteo. Texteo. Oh, yeah. AR, drop it. I don't know. Texteo. So, yeah. Okay. So, just so you're aware, okay, tomar, if you skip down, tomar means to take. And that's how your textbook is using it. But just so you're aware, tomar also means to drink. Okay? We have another verb that also means to drink. Okay? So just be aware, though, that someone's going to say, oh, yeah, yo tomo el agua. And you're like, they're taking the water? Where are they taking it? No, that's just like a phrase where you can use it. So like, escuchar música, to listen to music. Okay? Just so you have some context. Yeah, it's giving you an example. Tú escuchas música en tu cuarto. You listen to music in your room. It's just an example of how it's used. Okay? So it's giving you the phrase, it's giving you what it means, and then it's giving you an example. So you have context on how to use it. Okay? If you go down to the bottom part, to the T's, tocar. Okay? Tocar does mean to touch, but it also means to play. But it only means to play a musical instrument. To play a sport or a game is a completely different verb that we won't get to until like chapter 3. Okay? So just be aware of that. Don't be like, yo toco el fútbol. No, because that makes no sense. Okay? We use a different verb to talk about playing sports. Okay? Preguntas on this, first off. Okay? So I know it's a little bit difficult, but yes, you do need to know what these mean, and you need to be able to do this with them. Okay? See.
When exactly do we need to know this?
Like by tomorrow and for the rest of your life. No, because I mean, it's kind of like math. Once you learn how to add, you're never allowed to forget it, like ever again. Okay?
So, when's our next step?
Not next week, but probably like a week from Tuesday, I want to say. So yeah. Now, Hayden actually mentioned the word. No. Sometimes in English and in Espanol, okay, you have two verbs that make up one action. Okay? These are known as either compound verbs, or if it's like especially longer, like a verb phrase. Okay? But typically you have two verbs expressing one action. Okay? You have a main verb and you have an auxiliary verb. Now, I could never say it correctly most of the time or even spell it. So my 8th grade teacher said, just call it a helping verb, Little Santos. So there's a helping verb and a main verb. Okay? So, I need to speak. All right? Ira, has a question about, class. And so she says, Mr. Santos, I need to speak with you. Okay? In Spanish, necesitar is to need. Hablar is to speak. Okay? What do we do when we have a compound verb? Two verbs, one action. The main verb we do absolutely nothing to it. We leave it alone. Okay? The helping verb, or the auxiliary verb, that one we change. Okay? So in this case, you would drop the AR because it's Ira speaking to me, all right, in the yo form. What is the yo ending of an AR verb? Oh. So Ira would come up to me and say, Señor Santos, yo necesito hablar con usted. I need to speak with you. Okay? You change the first one, which is the helping verb, the auxiliary verb. You leave the second one alone. Okay? In this chapter, they have actually given you 3 auxiliary verbs. Typically, you can use them on their own, but generally you use them in conjunction with another one. If you look under the D's, desear. Desear means to wish or to desire. For now, we're going to use it to mean to want, okay? Because the verb to want is like an ER verb, and we're not going to learn that until the next chapter, okay? The other verb they give you is esperar, which actually has several meanings, but as a helping verb, as an auxiliary verb, it means to hope, all right? So, you know, Ira might say, espero hablar con usted. I hope I can talk to you for a minute, okay, for un minuto, okay? So those 3 are the auxiliary verbs. If you see these and you see like something else, more than likely it's a compound verb, okay? We have this in English, so hopefully it's not too weird of a concept, all right? So, I want to do just one exercise. We have about 10-15 minutes. So if you turn the page 36, page 36, okay? 1-21, right?